Hi, I'm Tina Jennings, and I teach 4th grade at Audubon Elementary School. And I just want to give you a little idea of what it's like if you were a student in my math class. My math class is not your traditional math class that you're used to seeing. If you come into my room at the beginning of math class, you would think, well, this looks pretty typical. You would see all the kids sitting on the floor and we're going over a few math review questions. But after that, it's going to get really different from most math classes. You're going to see kids working by themselves, you're going to see students working in pairs, and they're going to be working on some kind of device, whether it's an iPad, a laptop, or a desktop computer. And what they're doing is a curriculum that's called self-paced. And what that means is when a student is ready to move on to the next lesson, they are able to go ahead and watch a video that I have created that shows me teaching that content, and then they are able to do a small activity that goes with that, and then an exit ticket by themselves to prove to me that they have mastered the content. The reason why I chose to do this approach rather than your traditional small group approach is that I found that whenever I had kids in small group, I wasn't getting to spend very much time with each kid. I might get to spend 10 to 15 minutes with a group, and then I had to hurry up and move them on to the next rotation. And even if I had these 6 kids were so different. Some kids needed extra help, some kids were ready to move on really quickly. So by using this self-paced approach, I found that I can have a lot more one-on-one time with kids that are struggling. And there'll be some days that kids don't need me except for me to come and check their work. I look at it and I'm like, yeah, perfect. They move on to the next activity. And then there are other days when they get stuck and they really need me. And I can sit down with them and really explain a topic and reteach, and then they can move on to the next lesson. You've already completed lesson 15. I noticed because you've been bringing me your exit tickets, but if you haven't got to lesson 15 today, this is where you should be working. Lesson 14 is due today. So you're going to be talking about finding common units or number of units to compare two fractions. This application problem has to do with comparing fractions. So we have a strategy for solving problems that are applying our skills to everyday life. And what is that strategy that we use? RUW. So we're going to read, then what? Draw. Then we're going to write. We're going to write, okay? I'm seeing number lines. I'm seeing tape diagrams. I'm seeing some math equations. Looks like we had different ideas. You turn to somebody next to you and talk about how you are going to compare those fractions. How are you comparing your fractions? Maybe you'll learn a new strategy. So if you were going to go back and answer the question, who ran the farthest? Who ran the farthest, Noah? Jamal. So, you just did lesson 15, right? So you noticed that you took your 3/4 and your 4/5 here. And how did this help you to compare them? So here is an example of a video that I've created for the students to watch to help them to understand the objective. Anytime a student misunderstands something I say, they can always stop the video, they can pause it. There are times throughout the video I'll say, now, why don't you pause the video and give this a try? If you get stuck, you can always press play and I will talk you through the problem. Lesson 19, I will solve word problems involving addition and subtraction of fractions. We're not going to use our journal again today. I know you're probably thinking we haven't used it on the last 3 lessons. Don't throw your journal away. We're not finished with it. But today we're doing some problem solving, so we're going to go right to our problem set. All right, so I want you to go ahead and get out your problem set. I want you to notice that it says we're going to use the RDW process. We're going to read, we're going to draw, and we're going to write. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take a look at this problem. Sue ran 9/10 mile on Monday and 7/10 of a mile on Tuesday. How many miles did Sue run in 2 days? So we're going to draw something here to represent this. Let's start with the tape diagram since we have definitely used tape diagrams to model fractions, but we've never used one in the RDW process. So let's let this tape diagram represent the whole that we're talking about here. Okay, so we will say that the first part of the tape diagram here will represent Monday, and she ran 9/10 of a mile. And this will represent Tuesday, when she ran 7/10 of a mile. And we want to know how much did she run altogether. All right, so what would we do to solve this problem? Would we use addition or would we use subtraction? Well, if we want to know the total, we would use addition. So we're going to say 9/10 plus 7/10 equals 16/10. Okay, let's not leave this as an improper fraction. So let's go ahead and break this down in a number bond of a whole and what's left over. So it takes 10 out of 10 to make a whole, and there will be 6/10 left over. So that means that she ran 1 whole mile and 6/10 of another mile. So now we have to answer the question, how many miles did Sue run in 2 days? So we will say Sue ran 1 6/10 miles in 2 days. Okay, let's look at number 3. Maria spent 4/7 of her money on a book and saved the rest. What fraction of her money did Maria save? Take a minute and see if you can draw something to represent this problem. Go ahead and pause the video, think about what you would draw, and then come back and let's see if we drew something similar.
What I like about Miss Jennings' math different than past teachers' math is that I can work at my own speed and I don't have to go along with the class and I work at my own pace. I like Miss Jennings' math class because I like the way that she does math because she puts it on a video, and so that way she doesn't have to teach it to every single one of us kids. And it's really cool because we can do it pretty much anywhere we need to if we have a device.
I like math now because in the past, most of the time we had to do it together, and now we can go at our own pace and we're not having to wait for someone to finish their problem.
I learned a lot more than I used to in other classes. That's why I like Miss Jennings' class, because instead of everybody being on the same lesson, you're allowed to be on different lessons at the same time.